Now, as far as the types of arrays are concerned, there are two types of arrays: single dimensional arrays and multiple dimensional arrays, which are also called multi-dimensional arrays. In multi-dimensional arrays, we people have 2D arrays, 3D arrays, etc. But most of the times, programmers, they have to use only double-dimensional arrays. A double-dimensional array is nothing else. It's just like a matrix. A double-dimensional array is a collection of rows. The elements are arranged in a tabular form. And now we will see how we can view a 2D array, how we can represent a 2D array. Following is an example of 2D array in which we have stored sales amounts of 5 salespersons in last 3 months. For example, this 1000 happens to be the sales amount of the first salespersons in the first month, and 2000, this happens to be the sales amount of the first salesperson in the second month. 3500 is the sales amount of the first salesperson in the third month. Now we switch over to the next row, that is the second row. This 2200 represents the sales amount of the second salesperson in the first month, and 7000, as you might have already guessed, this is the sales amount of the second salesperson in the second month, and so on. So I can say 5450. You can understand that this is the sales amount of the fifth salesperson in the first month, and 9950 is the sales amount of the fifth salesperson in the third month. So this is the utility of using the arrays. How we people can name the array elements in 2D arrays. Now, because we are using 2D arrays, we will be having not only one single subscript, we will be having two subscripts. One subscript will represent the row number of the array element, and second subscript will represent the column number of this array element. For example, this is the same example. 1000 value was the sales amount of the first salesperson in the first month. It will be represented through SMT00. This SMT is nothing else, but I have assumed it to be the name of my 2D array. It could be anything. So I have named it as, suppose, SMT. I would say the first element will be represented as SMT00. The second element of the first row, that is 2000 in this example, that will be represented through the array element SMT01. Similarly, the third element, the element which is at the first row and third column, would be represented as SMT02. Similarly, SMT10, this is the element which represents the value at second row, first column, and so on. So because we are using 2D array, we will have to use two subscripts. The first subscript is for mentioning the row number, and second for the column number. Now let me explain how we people are supposed to write the programs of a 2D array. This is a simple program that is going to illustrate how we can read the values into 2D array and how we can get them displayed on the screen. So this is write a program that reads values into the elements of a 2D array and prints them. Okay, suppose this 2D array is for recording the scores of 3 players in 3 matches. So name of the 2D array could be anything. I have named it as scores. This is the row size. That is, we are going to have total number of 3 rows and total number of 3 columns. So obviously we people are going to have total number of 9 elements, 3 into 3, 9 elements. And this is now we are going to read the values into the 2D array, which is representing the scores of 3 players in 3 matches each. This is my outer loop. This outer loop will be used for traversing the rows, and this is my inner loop which will be used for traversing the columns. So when we are at the first row, the value of I will be 0, condition would be tested, I is less than 3. The control will come down to the following statement, j is equal to 0, j is less than 3, condition is true, and this block of inner loop would be executed. This is merely a prompt which will show like A00, A01, A02, then A10, A11, so on. Now we come to the scanf. In scanf, the first time value of I and j both are 0. So what we will be reading is scores 0, 0. That means first row, first column value, score of the first player in the first match. So after reading this, the control will go up. As you might have guessed, it will go to the last component plus j of the inner loop. The value of j will become 1. Condition would be tested. It is true. And condition of I is still standing at 0, but that of j is now 1. So we will be reading scores 0, 1. That is, we are reading the value of the first row, second column. Again, the control will go up to the last component of the inner loop. That is plus j. The value of j will become 2. Condition is true because 2 is less than 3. Again, we will be scanning scores 0, 2. That means we are reading the value of the element which is at the first row and third column. 0 is the value of I and j has the value 2. So when the value of j will be 3, next time the inner loop will break, and it will go at the termination of the outer loop, and it will go up the outer loop plus I will make the value of I from 0 to 1. Condition would be tested. J would be reinitialized again with 0. That is, we are starting with the second row. Of course, when we are starting with the second row, we will have to come down again to the first column. So that is why it is necessary the value of j should be reinitialized with 0, which is representing the column number. J is less than 3, condition is true, and scanf stands for ampersand scores 1, 0. And now the value of I is 1, that of j is again 0. So scores 1, 0 means we are reading the value of the element which is at second row, first column. That is, we are reading the score of the second player in first match, and it will go on like this. The values of the second row would be read from the user, and ultimately when the value of I will reach 3, this loop will break, and by that time we would have read the values of 9 elements. And next nested loops, they are quite obvious. They are apparently we are going to print the values in the matrix form. The same kind of loop has been applied here also, but instead of using scanf, we people are using printf. So let me execute the program and you can see the output yourself. F11, and here we go. A00 is suppose 12, A01. It is going to ask total number of 9 values. See, here is the output. This we have displayed on the screen in a matrix form.